Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Indie Alaska is an innovative weekly web series capturing the diverse and colorful lifestyle of Alaskans. Real stories of everyday Alaskans at work and play. Supported in part by Alyeska Pipeline Service Company.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for Sunday's show. On the satellite, pretty good zinger moved into the southeast coast late yesterday and overnight last night. Gale force winds, heavy rain, and even some storm force wind gusts in over the inside waters here, mainly over the southern areas there. The last of the waves rolling northward during the earlier part of today already has moved on inland, with the main front here edging its way to the east, so the rain will be tapering off to showers later tonight and tomorrow. And then this low pressure area out here is going to move mostly into the east toward the Queen Charlotte, so that may bring some more rain into the southern areas, but a lot less in the way of wind coming up for the next couple of days. Sunshine again from the northeast down across just about all of southern Alaska. This moisture moving off. Kept a few showers here over the extreme east and southeast interior, but as I mentioned, rain ending there at Yakutat and then breaking out into sunny skies with offshore wind flows getting pretty gusty on those north winds through the northern bays of Prince William Sound, Valdez on over to Whittier, and those areas seeing gusts 35 to as high as 45 miles an hour. But good conditions down across Kodiak Island, Bristol Bay again. And then this front moving inland, really not much of either a precipitation or a wind producer. There was some rain and snow, and then back to mostly rain with the warm air sliding up to the northeast, with the main low center back out to the west-northwest. And really nothing at all, just a band of clouds here, maybe a few isolated showers most of rain back into the Yukon Delta. There was a little bit of shower activity and winds gusts as high as 30 miles an hour at Nome this afternoon, and we're kicking up to about 25 miles an hour over toward St. Lawrence Island and toward Kotzebue during the afternoon hours again. This area of cloudiness back out here, that's going to be coming in, and that's got the colder air and a little more widespread shower activity with it. Look for those winds to increase as well. So there are high surf advisories out for the north coast of the Seward Peninsula, all the way back to Icy Cape there on the western Arctic coast, expecting seas 8 to 10 feet. And that's expected to remain out. Well, actually, it goes into effect 10 p.m. tonight and will be out the remainder of the night and through the day tomorrow into tomorrow evening, with those gale force winds from the west-northwest moving into the area. Otherwise, not too bad here again down along the Alaska Peninsula. This front giving some gusty winds, areas of rain, mainly to the central Aleutians out there. And looking at the chart today, positioned the front here earlier with this last low tracking northward there, this one beginning to shift eastward. And here's roughly the position of the front earlier today into the interior. Again, not really strong, really light rain associated with that, and most of that up here to the north and northwest. Some scattered showers following behind, and cooler temperatures, but the colder air back up with that tighter pressure gradient up along the Russian coast there. High pressure over the Bering Sea, and then the position of this front here over the Aleutians. That will begin to pull off to the east and southeast, but still bring a chance of rain here to this portion of the Aleutians, with gale force winds in those southern zones, but much lighter winds, eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, northern Bering Sea dominated by high pressure, and will be for the next several days here as it first builds into the west, and then later in the week pulls back to the west after building in from the west. Anyway, this front will progress eastward into the eastern interior, trail back across central Tanana Valley and along the Alaska Range. Look for some scattered rain and snow showers depending on the elevation here, mostly along the mountains. Up into the Tanana Valley should cool off enough for whatever falls will be mostly in the form of snow, but it shouldn't amount to too much at all. And then the gale force winds with numerous snow showers rolling into the northwest coast there. And again, high surf advisories, 8 to 10 foot waves out north slope of the Seward Peninsula and back up along the Arctic coast to about Icy Cape. Winds will be lighter northwest of there along the coast over to about Barrow. Otherwise, again, this system moving eastward will bring a chance of rain mainly to Prince of Wales Island, possibly, but to the north, just look for some scattered showers tonight with a few lingering rain or snow showers possible, mainly over the Wrangell Mountains. Northwest winds continue gusty in areas here, back down across Kodiak Island, and skies will remain mostly clear though. Pretty fair conditions, Alaska Peninsula, dry for the eastern Aleutians, maybe a few breaks in the clouds, continued light winds, but getting right on the edge of that precipitation, which tomorrow won't make it. Actually, it'll kind of stay either to the west or drop off to the south. So you're going to stay dry there, but watch for an increase in the winds during the afternoon, but nothing too significant. Still some gale force winds possible there, mostly south of Atka Island. High pressure over the Bering Sea, as you can see, kind of building eastward a little bit there, ridging into the southwest interior. So dry conditions, mostly sunny. Again, down across Bristol Bay, another sunny, dry day tomorrow with winds on the increase now. This low beginning to deepen in the Gulf of Alaska in response to an upper level trough coming down from the northwest. And it looks like as that pulls into the Gulf of Alaska tomorrow night, it'll actually close off into an upper center, and the upper wind flow will shift eastward. So we're looking for those winds to, again, continue to gust up as to 50, 65 miles an hour here along the Prince William Sound area, possibly back to Passage Canal. Should be pretty gusty winds, maybe the Madanuska-Susitna Valley areas with this higher pressure building in at the surface. And again, this will track eastward there, chance of rain, just some scattered showers remaining along the southeast coast. And then that next system bringing the gusty northwest winds, periods of snow, and could be some accumulations here on the north slopes of the Brooks Range areas, but that definitely diminishes as you head to the south there. Actually getting a flow from the west of warmer air working in here just behind that weak warm front. And then again, this is the upper level trough tomorrow afternoon, which will pull off to the east for Tuesday and Wednesday. But for Tuesday, looks like high pressure and sunshine here across much of southern Alaska. Winds will be diminishing now where they picked up late tomorrow and tomorrow night into early Tuesday, then diminishing here from west to east, but still pretty gusty, Copper River Valley and back into Prince William Sound, especially early on, becoming lighter here for Kodiak Island as this high slides into right up along the coast there. That flow around on the top there, coming over the top, bringing milder air, low clouds, fog, maybe some drizzle into Norton Sound. Another system, the warm front, bringing some light snow possibilities into the Arctic coast, but winds will be considerably lighter, although as this system tracks eastward, could see some possible 25 to 35 knot winds with that as it moves east throughout the day Tuesday, but then winds will be coming lighter later on Tuesday and into Wednesday. And with that upper trough dropping into the Gulf of Alaska, the showers back in here will begin to enhance late tomorrow afternoon. And so that'll start sliding in and looks pretty showery and wet here with lowering snow levels over the northern southeast coast. And even a band will swing through the southern areas, but the heaviest moisture will be up to the north, but nothing as heavy as what you saw the last 24 hours down in that area. High pressure in this position means east-southeast winds along the Aleutians. Some moisture getting caught up in that might spread a little bit of light rain possibly to the eastern Aleutians there, but pretty much very uniform wind pattern out over the southern Bering Sea and the Aleutians. For the temperatures today, mid-50s over the southeast coast with a 51 at Yakutat, 53 at Juneau, 55 at Sitka, Elfin Cove and Port Alexander at 52, 49 Gulkana, 61 there at Valdez, and 62 at Seward, while Homer 56, mid-50s for Cook Inlet, 57 Talkeetna, up to 60 today at Kodiak, and we'll see in the lower 40s over the Tanana Valley. On up to the north, lower 30s here for the Brooks Range, 39 Fort Yukon, and 34 at Bettles. Lower 40s here, Ambler and over to Kotzebue, 39 Shishmaref. And the Arctic coast, lower to mid 30s on the central and east side, near 40 on the west side, 39 Tin City and a 43, both at Nome and Savunga. 52 at Macoriac, same thing at Cape Newnham, but Bethel pushed up to 49 degrees today, 47 McGrath, and 54 at St. Paul, 52 over at Atka, and Shimmy out there, 51 degrees. Lows tonight, teens and 20s, coldest here in the eastern areas. Quite a range though, up to maybe the lower 30s, definitely 30 to 35 here out to the west, and then near 40 along the southwest coast, the mid 40s over the Pribilofs, upper 40s for the Aleutians, and about 45 to 50 or so here for the Panhandle. Looking at the highs tomorrow, 30s in the north with 40s down across Kotzebue Sound, mid to upper 40s over the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, as well as the mid-valley areas there, and then upper 30s to lower 40s here over the eastern interior, but getting up to near 50 or into the lower 50s south central Alaska, mid to upper 50s over the southern southeast coast. Flying weather, this area will be scooting by mostly to the south. Any IFR probably will be confined to Dixon entrance, but look for conditions to improve throughout the day here with VFR showing up as that band of marginal stuff moves off to the east. And then with the moisture up here to the north, the northern slopes of just about the entire Alaska range will be vulnerable to some marginal VFR at times, with areas of back to the northwest and then IFR north of the Brooks Range to the Arctic coast. Big area VFR forecast here, well, from the Bering Straits and much of the Bering Sea here, and then some IFR barely hanging on to the southern side of the central Aleutians. Passes Anatuvik, marginal, possibly becoming VFR. Lowest conditions will be on the north side. Same thing for Adigan, just mentioned marginal VFR there with the lowest stuff on that north entrance. And VFR to the south. Lake Clark and Merrill, possible marginal VFR in the western entrances, otherwise VFR. Same forecast for Rainy. If there's any marginal VFR, it'll be on the western entrance, otherwise VFR. Windy, marginal VFR at times. And for Isabel and Mentasta, occasionally marginal with the lowest conditions there on the north entrance, better to the south. And Tanita, VFR, either approach. Portage looking good, although getting a little turbulent with those increasing west winds. For Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR, gradually improving to VFR during the latter part of the afternoon. For the freezing levels, colder air aloft coming in, you can see 2,000 feet here following the front end, right down along the western Alaska range, cutting back across the deltas, and at the surface here, shifting down to the southeast, and then eventually some warmer air will be coming back up around late tomorrow night and into Tuesday. And then this pocket of cold air associated with the trough moving in across the Queen Charlottes, and about 6,000 to 8,000 feet out to the west. Icing threats, mostly with the moisture coming in to the northwest, and then this lingering stuff out over the Aleutians. This will be, again, mostly south of the area, but there'll still be some leftover scattered areas of mixed rime icing, or mixed and rime icing in areas of the Panhandle, and then really scattered, nothing significant over the interior. And the upper level wind flow chart, here's a trough that'll be moving by to the south over the Panhandle. The Arctic jet coming around with that trough digging into the Gulf, and again that'll form another center tomorrow night and Tuesday, which will move eastward and increase the shower chances there over the northern southeast coast. And then this jet will settle in, tend to kick the winds up through south central Alaska into Prince William Sound and those areas. But this high will eventually build in toward the coast. That trough will move off by Wednesday into northwest Canada, and then maybe later in the week it'll pull back to the west, and something else will come down into mainly the eastern and central interior of the state. But that means no really significant storms at all or precipitation, especially for southern Alaska or the Bering Sea. 9,000 foot winds look like this, big high out over the northern Bering, centered there, and northwest up to 40 knots there coming into the northwest coast. Those 30 knot winds extending right into the Selawik, possibly Kobuk Valley. Northerlies 35, Alaska range coming down across Kodiak Island. Light variable winds there or lighter and more variable with the low center, but still the stronger winds now south of the Dixon entrance area. Same thing at 3,000 feet, the stronger winds now in the jet south of the Panhandle, lighter up to the north, and then these stronger northerlies and northwesterlies coming in along the western Alaska Range, down across Kodiak Island. And they'll be shifting eastward into late afternoon and overnight tomorrow night and early Tuesday, and then continue to shift further off to the east with higher pressure building in behind. But tomorrow, west-northwest, 30 to 40 knots there. Chukchi Sea up along the western Arctic coastal areas. Still some 35-knot winds lingering here over the central Aleutians. Turbulence-wise with that, occasional moderate chop below 8,000 feet there, mainly around Adak. Those strong winds, mechanical turbulence, mainly for small aircraft, about below 4,000 feet of the severe variety. Otherwise, less choppiness as you head south here. And then with mechanical turbulence, northwest winds across the mountains, south central Alaska, occasional moderate chop, but becoming pretty smooth here for the southeast coast. And then things will be increasing there for Prince William Sound. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider, joined again by Eric Stevens from the GINA, or Geographic Information Network of Alaska at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Thanks for joining us again, Eric.
Glad to be here.
Thanks. We are talking about satellites today, and what are satellites? And the easy way to talk about that would be to introduce our friend the globe here, which is a round spheroid type shape. We haven't been on a flat Earth as far as history is known for several hundred years now, and because of that we also know that we are orbiting around other objects in space, and that objects are orbiting around the Earth as well. We call all those things satellites in some form or fashion, right, Eric?
Right. Well, this leads to the discussion of Johannes Kepler's research 400 years ago. Did some of the early work and founded the 3 laws of planetary motion, which are important to planets and also to weather satellites.
Okay.
Kepler's first law talks about how the orbit of an object around another object is an ellipse, not necessarily a circle.
Kind of a flattened circle?
Yeah, depending on how flat
squished
it could be.
Okay.
For our purposes, we'll just say they're mostly circular.
Okay.
The second law is most important for us, though, and that is the closer an object is to the thing it's orbiting, the faster it goes. So in the solar system, the planet Mercury is the closest planet to the sun. It orbits the sun in 88 days. It moves at 100,000 kilometers an hour.
It's a lot different than Earth.
Moving.
Okay.
Right. And further out from the Earth is Jupiter, and it moves at only 1/4 the speed of Mercury, and it has to go further, so it takes 12 of our years for Jupiter to make one lap. The further out you are, the slower you go.
Okay.
So we're talking about planets. What does it have to do with weather satellites? Turns out Kepler's laws apply to planets orbiting the sun. They also apply to satellites orbiting the Earth.
Okay.
You know, our natural satellite is the moon. There's the famous Apollo 8 Earthrise shot.
Beautiful shot.
Oh, yeah, you could just talk about that forever. December 1968, the moon is about 250,000 miles away from the Earth.
Okay.
It takes a month to go around the Earth. It's that far out, it takes a full month to do an orbit. Another shot here of the International Space Station. Instead of being 250,000 miles out, the ISS is only 250 miles up. It's really close. And so it doesn't take a full month for the space station to go around the Earth. It only takes 90 minutes. It's so close, it just whips right around 90 minutes.
Okay.
So weather satellites, there are a number of weather satellites, and there are a number of orbits. The further out you have the satellite, the longer it takes to go around the Earth. And this is important because different satellites have different purposes. So we have a satellite here. This little salt shaker lid will serve as our satellite going around the Earth. Let's say you have a satellite that's 22,000 miles above the Earth. This is kind of a magical spot because at that distance, it takes a full day for the satellite to go around the Earth. Imagine if you put your satellite 22,000 miles up from the equator and had it go with the Earth as the Earth spun.
At the same speed.
Right. The satellite goes around the Earth just as fast as the Earth itself is turning. In effect, the satellite will hover in one spot.
I see.
And it appears when you make a movie loop of picture after picture after picture, you can replay that and you get these movie loops. Geostationary satellites, these are called, because they're stationary in appearance, and they provide a constant frame of reference. We've got an example here. Another nice thing about these satellites, since they're that far out at 22,000 miles, you can see from pole to pole, which is nice. So they're pretty broad view and a constant frame of reference.
So those are the pictures. If you're watching a weather satellite loop on TV, your favorite weather show, that's the picture that you're going to see, is one that's sitting over the same spot.
If you're seeing a movie loop play again and again, that came from geostationary satellites.
Okay.
That's the only way you can do that.
Yeah.
The bummer, though, for us in Alaska is we're up on the very top of the planet, and for geostationary satellites to work, they have to be over the equator. So for the geostationary bird to view Alaska, it's kind of like reading a book, but you're reading it edge on like that.
Right.
So there's another kind of orbit called the polar orbit,
Okay.
which is nice. We're near the pole.
Yeah.
And here's a satellite. Those polar orbiters are much closer to the Earth, getting down toward International Space Station elevation, and they're not in the equatorial plane. Rather, their orbital plane is inclined like this, and the Earth turns under that satellite as the satellite orbits. The nice thing about that is for Alaska, the satellite will go right over Alaska a few times a day. And so you get a much closer image. We've got a shot from the Sumi NPP satellite. Specifically, it's a true color image from the VIRS sensor. That's an acronym there.
Okay.
But it's a beautiful shot of Alaska, and you can see so much detail. The kind of detail, because you're close in,
Very high resolution.
you couldn't get this kind of view from geostationary satellites. The advantage of these polar orbiters is nice close imagery. You can see a lot of detail. The disadvantage, though, is that the satellite flies by,
Right.
and then you have to wait a while to get the next image. And if geostationary weaknesses are that you're reading the page like that, the polar orbiter, you're reading the page straight on, but it's so close, and then it zips by, and you have to wait for the satellite to come around the Earth again. So there's no one perfect solution. Different satellites for different orbits. Each has their strength, and amazingly, it all comes back to Johannes Kepler and his laws of planetary motion. The same laws that govern how the planets orbit the sun, they govern how the satellites orbit the Earth, and even our little pretend salt shaker right here.
Right. Okay. Well, since the 1957 Sputnik, we've been putting man-made objects into orbit around the Earth and starting to get pictures back. Who knows what will happen in the next 50 to 100 years? Amazing
it's
stuff.
a growing science, and the future is bright.
Thank you so much for joining us again, Eric. And for more information on GINA and what the satellite systems do there and what Eric's been talking about today, you can go to the web address on your screen. For Alaska Weather Facts, I'm meteorologist Dave Snider.
Welcome back. Here along the southeast coast, early in the day tomorrow, these winds here along the south coast may be out of the east, 20 to 22 knots, as that system moves on by across the Queen Charlottes. Then should become west or even west-northwest, come down to about 15. Pretty light winds, west-southwest, 10 to 15 along the remainder of the coast, and becoming light and variable over the inside waters. For Tuesday, northerlies 15 to 20 knots, and then southwest here 20 to 30 knots along the south coast, and the inside waters southwest 10 to 15, and then becoming north here for Lincoln Island Glacier Bay about 15 knots. Could be a little higher than that late in the day and during the evening Tuesday. For south central Alaska, Prince William Sound 20 knots sustained with higher gusts, much higher gusts developing late tomorrow and tomorrow night. Otherwise holding on to that 15 knot wind for the North Gulf Coast, but 25 to 35 knot winds here for the western areas and across the Barren Islands, 25 knots Kachemak Bay, Cook Inlet, northerlies up to 20 at times with some areas of higher gusts. Small craft advisories here for these zones along the east side of Kodiak Island, northwest 20 for Shelikof Strait. Those winds could actually kick up to 30 knots for a time tomorrow night into early Thursday, but then diminishing, higher pressure moving in, the gradient shifting eastward. So really coming down here for Kodiak Island late, and again losing the gales, but hold on to the small craft advisories for the Barren Islands and western coast. Still 35 knot winds much of the day for the North Gulf Coast. North 25, higher gusts, Prince William Sound, Copper River Delta and those areas. Out to the west, Bristol Bay, northwest 15 tomorrow, even lighter down along the Alaska Peninsula. 25 knots, Sitkinak over to about Chignik. And then for Tuesday, light northeast winds now for that area. Bristol Bay becoming northeast at about 15. Easterlies on the increase here, especially the western zone, part of that zone, up to 20 knots for the peninsula. And for Bristol Bay on Monday, or let's see what's next here. Okay, the Aleutians Tuesday, Tomorrow for northeast here, 10 to 15 out over the western areas. And then still holding on to the gales here over the Aleutians, possibly into tomorrow. But then for Tuesday, easterly everywhere. Still highest here south of Atka over to probably south of Nikolsky. Small craft advisories there. Otherwise, about 20 knots everywhere else. And then for the southwest coast here, south of Nunivak Island, northeast at 10, northeast 15 for the Pribilofs, and then high pressure right about in this area here. So this western part of St. Matthew Island will see the 15-knot winds, kind of more lighter and variable here for the central zone, northwest 10 along the coast, St. Lawrence Island west at 15. And for Tuesday, start to see a little pickup in the wind here, east 20 knots, maybe some higher gusts there for St. George. Light southerlies for the northern Bering Sea and southwest at about 15 for St. Lawrence Island. Very light winds here, variable, high pressure centered possibly right over Nunivak Island. And up along the Arctic coast tomorrow, 20-knot west-southwesterlies here, central and eastern areas. Gale force winds, Point Ley, all the way down to the Bering Strait out of the west, but beginning to diminish during the afternoon here from for the eastern Kotzebue Sound area. And then for Tuesday, those winds shifting eastward. This will be the small craft advisory areas. Also freezing spray showing up in the forecast now, colder air coming in on those winds. And then diminishing and more southwesterly here along the western coast on down to the Bering Strait. For tonight, looking again, showers, rain diminishing, winds continuing to diminish. Most of this will be down to the south, the front edging eastward, very light precipitation associated with it, but the stronger winds showing up back here to the northwest, supporting the high surf advisories. High pressure over the Bering Sea here, keeping this system down to the south, and it's going to eventually keep moving off to the east here. And then for tomorrow, showers, gusty winds up to the northwest. And taking a look at Tuesday, another system here that probably will slide off to the east, but lighter.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.